if you look at the profits of insurance companies over the last 10 years, it's unbelievable. The ACA, the Affordable Care Act, implemented what's called the medical loss ratio for insurance companies, and it was intended to be something to help control costs, but what it actually did was cause this big inflation. And so what it says is about 80% of whatever carriers are taking in as premiums need to be paid towards the cost of care. The other 20 can be revenue or profit or whatever. The only way to grow the 20 is to grow the 80, right? They are genuinely incentivized to pay more for the cost of care so that they can take more in their 20.
That's crazy.
Wild.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Pivot to Profit. My guest is the amazing Chelsea Ryckis. So awesome to have you here. How are you?
Good, Pam. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with your audience and, get this going.
Yes, your story is amazing, and what you're doing, it makes such an impact on businesses. So I can't wait to have you share that with us. So let me officially introduce you. Chelsea is an award-winning entrepreneur and president of Ethos Benefits, is revolutionizing employer-sponsored health insurance. And y'all, just wait, it's true. After a brain injury, she ended her D1 softball career, where she and her husband founded Ethos to help tackle fraud and waste while boosting savings. She has amazing accolades like 2024 Advisor of the Year, Most Innovative Healthcare Consultant of the Year. And she also has an amazing documentary called It's Not Personal, It's Your Healthcare, and co-authored a best-selling book and has a podcast, The Business of Benefits. Oh my gosh, you're so cool. I love you. And I know her in real life, so that's super fun. So before we dive in, Chelsea, look, if you're a business owner and you need help understanding your numbers, paying less in taxes, just go to pamjordan.com, schedule a call with my team. We would love to help you. All right, Chelsea, we're going to dive in. We're going to go way back.
Okay.
What were you taught about money as a kid?
Oh, goodness. So I unfortunately didn't have the best model, I would say, of finances. My dad came from serious poverty. He was actually taken out of school in 8th grade to run the business with his family in Montreal, Canada, where I was born. So he started roofing in 8th grade with his family business over in Montreal, and then eventually opened up his own company with my mom on the western side of Canada. But he came from really, really, really humble beginnings. So there was a lot of the mindset that when you have money, you spend it, right? There wasn't this concept of saving for retirement or anything like that. So I had a really great childhood though, because we went on trips and I got gifts and, it all seemed so wonderful. But then you get a little bit older and you're like, hey guys, what's your retirement plan? But they've done well and they've, pivoted the way that they needed to. But I would say that everything I've learned about money has been, mostly by seeing what not to do, honestly. And then my husband was actually a financial advisor prior to being in benefits. So thank goodness I met him, is what we'll say.
He's been super helpful. So obviously amazing athlete, had an injury. So where did you start your career? Because most of us as entrepreneurs, where we sit today is not what day one looked like. So what was day one for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, when I was like a child, I saw my parents running a business. I saw the freedom that they had. And I knew for sure, like, I want to be my own business owner. When I was hit in the head with a softball, cleared to play too soon, and ended up in a brain injury rehab program, I had to defer med school. So my dream was to be a doctor. I wanted to save the world and save lives through medicine. But the brain injury was pretty intense, and I wasn't able to actually go back to med school. So I ended up getting into the other side of healthcare, which is healthcare financing. How are we actually paying for this care? And something that ignited that was when I was in Canada doing my rehab. Originally, my treatment was in the US, and those medical bills from the hospitals found me up in Canada as a 22-year-old who, I was waitressing with earplugs in, barely able to afford to pay for the treatment. Never mind what's a deductible, what's an out-of-pocket expense. Like, why do I owe 11 grand and I'm 22 and have no idea what the is going on? Right? Like,
how did this happen?
Yeah. And, like a lot of people, like I thought I was covered. So that was really like the spark. And then what I realized, I could actually do this at something like at the mass level and impact hundreds of thousands of American workers, people who are living paycheck to paycheck. They're giving their life really to these companies, and these companies have a duty to provide the highest quality, lowest cost healthcare. And I just figured out a way to do that that I'm really proud of.
I love it. So did you start straight as a business owner? Like, did you go from waitressing straight to business owner? What did that transition look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I ended up in nonprofit when I moved back to the States, and I was still recovering from the brain injury, and I was raising a bunch of money. And I remember I was making about 30 grand a year, and I asked for a raise to my boss. I'd, beat all these fundraising records, and I said, "Hey, here's a business plan. I think next year I can raise 250,000, and in doing so, I would like a $36,000 salary." And they told me, "We'll give you a bonus and it'll come in the mail." So I wait. It doesn't come. I ask again. And this check here on the wall is actually what came in the mail 6 months later. Do you want to guess what my bonus was?
It's insulting, I'm sure.
It's so insulting. It's $10. $10 was my bonus check. So I never cashed it. I quit. I opened up my own insurance agency. That was my moment into like, nobody's ever telling me what I'm worth ever again. I've always wanted to be a business owner. Sure, my brain might not be perfect, but who is perfect? Like, let's just do it. And so I opened my first insurance agency through Colonial Life, which was essentially like those Aflac style plans, right? Like voluntary benefits. Got my feet wet, figured out how to do it. And then just a year later, ended up going independent and opening up a true brokerage at the age of 25.
I love that. And I love that the check is on the wall of like reminder of what I'm worth.
100%, and I, not only is it a reminder of what I'm worth, but it's a reminder of how I want to treat the people that work for me. Yeah. I want to compensate them fairly. I want to give them a path to growth. I want to give them the resources they need to be successful. And more than anything, I take my responsibility of providing for their families so seriously. Yeah. And I just honor the work that they do because I've never felt appreciated like that when I was an employee. Yeah. So I think like the money kind of mindset and the energy around money, like it goes so many ways, right? It's like, sure, I'm creating profit through Ethos Benefits. I'm creating a ton of savings for employers and employees across the country, but I also have such a gift to be able to give that to my team too, right?
Yeah. I love that. That's beautiful. So let's talk about one of the first financial wins that you had in your business. So being young, going out independent, like what was one of those like, oh, wow, I can do this moments of like, that's a big check. Like what was one of those moments? Tell me about it.
So my husband and I, and so by the way, my husband and I own our business together today. We've had this company together for 8 years, but we were actually business partners prior to any romantic relationship. So it's not one of those situations where like, you go into business with your spouse or you love your spouse and you think you want to start a company. It was actually like we saw true business value in one another and then it, transitioned.
Developed.
Yeah. So it's a little interesting because people are always like, oh, that must be so hard. And I'm like, it's actually not. And I think it's because of the way that we started. Like there was no obligation, no duty, no nothing. It was like you add immense value in these areas. And it was, the honesty that you can have with a true partner. Yeah. So anyways, we are just started dating. We've had our business together probably a year or so. And at that point we were working with a lot of smaller businesses, right? Like under 50 employees. Well, we were working on this dealership that was 550 or so employees, so much larger than what we'd worked on. But we kicked ass. Like we brought this amazing proposal to them and we're just waiting. We took our first vacation that we'd ever taken and we went to Cuba and we were staying. And it was very, how do you say this? Like not like the trips we take now. It was very budget, right? Like, and we can get away for 2 days. Let's do it. Like we're going to go and we're going to have this vacation. So we land in Cuba. We're at the luggage carousel waiting for our bags. And I open up my phone for the first time and there's a voicemail and it's from the HR of this dealership. And she's like, "Hey, Chelsea, I just wanted to let you know, like, we'd love to move forward with you guys. Your proposal made so much sense. We've never had things explained to us this way." Right. And I looked at Donovan and I'm like, "Hey, like, what kind of deal is this, like revenue wise?" Because like at that point I was so obsessed with winning. I didn't necessarily care how much we were going to make off of it. Right. And he was like, close to 200,000. And at that point, the majority of the deals that I was doing were like 10, 15, $20,000 a year, right?
Right.
So to have a $200,000 deal was like, let's go. So we literally were like, I jumped on him at the airport. We're hugging, and then I realized the turnaround time, they wanted to start on Monday. This was Friday. So they wanted to start like all the stuff that they wanted to do on a Monday. And we're like, okay, well, shit, we got to find some cheap Wi-Fi, which by the way, that doesn't exist in Cuba. We spent hundreds of dollars on Wi-Fi. We worked all weekend long in this little cafe drinking mojitos and getting ready for the deal on Monday.
I love it. But that's the entrepreneurial journey, right? Like
100%. It was so fun. Like I will never forget that. And just that moment. And like now what's interesting is like, that's the typical deal for us, right? Like usually because I'm sure we'll get to it, but we sold off a large portion of our business once I figured out what my numbers were and got educated and saw that, hey, this doesn't make sense for us anymore. So now, like a six-figure deal is typical for us. Right. But I will never forget that moment of just like, holy crap, we can do this,
Yeah.
So
I love that. Those stories are what it's all about because it's that and you remember where you were and you remember how you felt and you're like, holy cow, we can make this happen. But then it's roll up your sleeves and it's time to grind. Like our 2-day vacation is not a vacation. We are now just in Cuba working our butts off.
And it was just the two of us, which was even more interesting because now, we've got a team 10 to 15 on average, depending on the time of the year, all W-2 employees. And we don't do that kind of work anymore, right? So to look back at that and be like, man, we executed an open enrollment planned over a weekend. And it was also in Spanish. Like neither of us really speak Spanish. Like I genuinely don't know how we did it when I look back and I'm like, it's just funny because your problems get bigger and you kind of get more removed from obviously like the day-to-day work. But yeah, very special.
I love it. I love it. And so your business model has evolved because you've now completely eliminated commissions and your business model, all that. But like, tell us a little history of what got you to where you are and how you were able to really zone in on like, this is what we love doing. This is what we're good at. And this is what we can make good money at. Let's do more of that. And help me understand that journey.
Absolutely. So the typical experience for employers when it comes to health insurance and working with a brokerage is that they end up they see like 4 options a year, right? Usually it's going to be Blue Cross, United, Cigna, or Aetna, and maybe some local regional players. And they'll see, I call it spreadsheeting, where they see a spreadsheet and it's the same 4 options every single year. And do you want to narrow the or do you want to narrow the network? Increase the deductible? How are we going to shift costs around? Yeah. And that is considered problem solving in health insurance as the status quo. What we realized really early on in our business was the inflation that we're seeing year after year. So employers are hit with 10%, 12%, 20% every single year, and it's becoming unsustainable. What we realized was that is not actually what's happening. Medical trend is BS. Like nurses aren't getting paid 15% more every single year. Hospital prices aren't going up at that same rate. What's happening is there's these unnecessary layers in the healthcare supply chain that are adding cost to employers. And the really interesting thing is when employers just swallow that 10% or they throw their hands up and say, well, the system sucks, there's nothing I can do, every single person in the supply chain benefits and profits immensely. Brokers, hospitals, pharmacies, and insurance carriers. Every single one of them get paid more when employers believe that this just sucks. Like there's nothing.
Suck it up. This is what it is. But it's not is what it is.
It's not. So as soon as you start removing what I call misaligned incentives in the supply chain. So number one is, how is your broker paid? If your broker's paid commission, guess what? When that 10% hike comes in, guess who's making 10% more? That's crazy. You wouldn't pay your accountant that way. You wouldn't pay an attorney that way. Like, why are you paying somebody who's advising you on how to take care of your number one asset, your employees? Why should they make more money when you pay more money? Right. So fundamentally, that was the first thing that we saw as wrong with the business. And I think coming into this industry with really fresh eyes, number one, I'm Canadian. Number two, I didn't work for anybody else. I just decided like, this is the problem I want to solve. So I never got the like the green eyes of the bonus. I never got these huge, amazing trips from insurance companies. I didn't experience any of that, and I didn't want any of it.
Yeah.
The issue is that most brokerages make a ton of money on these commissions and these bonuses. So if you put enough business with Blue Cross Blue Shield, they're going to continue to incentivize you to keep that business there.
Right.
So we never had that. And we only work for a fee, probably the same way that you work.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you really just focused on helping the client. And what I love is you and I have talked a number of times and talking about unboxing all of the services, where typically when you get that big spreadsheet where it's like pick A, B, or C and it all looks the same. So you just pick the cheapest one because it's 10% more than it was last year. Explain how you unbox all that, because that was a huge mind blower for me because I'm not in this space. Like, I didn't know that's how it worked.
Yeah, that's such a good question. So to your point, when you're looking at that spreadsheet and you see those typical options, those are called shelf plans. So think about just taking a product off a shelf. When you actually look at what is a health insurance plan, like what's inside of it, there's 4 pieces. The first is a third-party administrator. That's the number on the back of the card, paying, processing claims. The doctor's going to call and check if they are covered, that kind of thing. So the third-party administrator. The next piece is the pharmacy benefit manager. This is who determines the formulary, what drugs are covered, what are we paying for those drugs. The next piece is the network. Who's in network, who's out of network, who can I see, right? And then the last piece is what everybody thinks of as insurance. It's called stop loss insurance, and it's to cover those really catastrophic claims. So if you purchase a plan from Blue Cross, United, Cigna, or Aetna, it has all of those 4 pieces working, and you're paying for all of those 4 pieces. The difference is they own those 4 pieces. Because they own it, think of it like a closed box. They own it, so they're like, hey, this is proprietary. You can't see in the box. So when you get your renewal next year, you're like, well, did we spend too much on drugs? Did we have really high medical claims? Did we have a cancer? Like, are reimbursements in the network too high? Like, what's the problem here? They're never going to tell you because they are responsible to their shareholders, and they actually have zero incentive to take your costs down ever, by the way. Right. I think that should be clear, but just in case it's not. So you have a closed box, right? With those 4 pieces. What we do on the contrary is we look at those 4 pieces and we say, capitalism, what a beautiful thing. Why don't we go shop these 4 pieces? I'm going to shop 20 TPAs, third-party administrators. I'm going to shop 20 stop-loss markets. I'm going to shop 20 pharmacy benefit managers, and I'm going to shop maybe 5 different networks. And then I build a plan for employers. When you do that, box is completely open. We have to the penny accounting. Yeah. So we know 6 months ahead of your renewal, how are you performing? Do you deserve a 10% increase? Probably not. We can negotiate drug prices. We can see a baby child delivery came through for $80,000. That's really outrageous. Why would we pay $80,000 when we could pay $10,000 and we negotiate it down? You can't do any of that when you don't have data. So the open box plan is where it's at. And you can do that even with smaller companies. Like we just, actually another member of our CEO school group, 20 employees, over $110,000 of savings just by opening that box up for a smaller company. Like that's amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah. So how do you get compensated now?
Great question. So I work for a fee, and usually it's going to be a per employee per month fee. So if we have 20 insured on the plan, it'll be a flat fee, and it'll depend. Are we doing all the compliance? Are we using our text message software? Are we doing all the things? Then that fee might be a little bit higher. Or it might be a lot lower if the group is really large. So it can range anywhere between probably $45 to about $70 per employee per month, which if you look at the commission structure of typical brokers, it's actually much higher when you account for their bonuses too.
That's crazy. So by really diving in and opening that box and understanding the process and not thinking like everyone else, you're actually leading the industry.
We teach. So yes, we are teaching brokers. We're teaching employers, HR, CFOs all over the country constantly, essentially unraveling what I call the big lie, which is what the documentary is about. Yeah. There absolutely is something you can do about the cost of your healthcare. You can offer better benefits. You can offer them at a lower cost, and you can have better health outcomes for your team. You just have to stop believing everybody that's telling you that you can't. Because the people, like I said earlier, the people that are telling you that you can't, they're profiting heavily off of you.
And
Just
they're going to Cabo on behalf of Aetna because they sold a bunch of Aetna. Like, just
100%.
Just realize who you're talking to and how they're being compensated. And I have no problem with people making money, but understand their motive when they're talking to you.
That's exactly it. So when we pick those 4 pieces of the health plan, we only pick aligned partners, which means we're going to pick a pharmacy benefit manager that has what we call like a per script fill fee. So every time a script is filled, they get a fee, as opposed to usually what they're doing is a pharmacy will charge $6,000 for a multiple sclerosis drug that actually costs them 11, right? Or a pharmacy benefit manager. And then they'll take that spread from the health plan. There is so much waste and abuse in the pharmacy component of health plans. It's unbelievable. Off the bat, employers can expect 15 to 20% annual savings just by taking a look at pharmacy. I mean, you got to work with somebody that knows how to do it, and traditional brokers, I would say, they're not incentivized, right, to lower the cost. So they're actually going to want those high cost drugs to hit the plan, because then next year those increases come through, right?
For sure. And it's more money in their pocket and another trip to Cabo, and they're going to get some award, and it's going to be great because they're selling all this, but they're not actually trying to help the entrepreneur founder save money and have a good plan for their employees.
Yeah. We'll even go as far as performance-based compensation. So with certain clients, if they want us to take a lower fee up front, we believe so much that in what we do, and we know it works because we have 10 years of our book of business performs 44% better than the national averages financially. But more importantly, the health outcomes of these employees are significantly higher, because think about this. If you needed a knee surgery tomorrow, how are you going to pick your knee surgeon?
Word of mouth, find who my insurance covers. Like, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And so what's really scary is, the access that we have as consumers to quality data. I'll tell you a quick story. A CEO of mine has a company with about 150 employees. We've been working with him for about 7 years. He needed a surgery on, I can't remember if it was his wrist or his shoulder, but like an orthopedic surgery. This was a few years ago. And he's like, hey, I want to go see Dr. So-and-so. My buddy said he's the best. He's in all of my Vistage CEO groups. Like, we need to make sure he's on the plan. I'm like, hey, I'm going to run it through the quality score, because we have access to data that will tell us readmission rates, medical malpractice lawsuits. Basically, it gives them a score of whether or not it's a quality physician or surgeon. This guy had done the wrong surgery on the wrong patient, wrong surgery, wrong limb, and then right surgery, wrong limb. He had 3 open, terrible cases that were very recent.
Holy cow.
It was wild, right? And but he's on the billboards and he's at the biggest hospital. So there's this assumption, right, that bigger is better in healthcare. And that couldn't be further from the truth. But nobody has that information unless you're in these more innovative plan designs where you can access that. And we'll even go as far as telling employees, hey, if you get your surgery with a high quality provider, you can have it for free, because you're not going to be readmitted. We're not going to have complications. Then that claim dollar amount, right, isn't going to be skyrocketing because this person is really good and you're going to heal. So there's all sorts of ways to get creative and incentivize people.
I love it. I love it. Now, tell me about the documentary. Why did you decide that, because you did it with your own dollars. How did you decide that the world needed this?
So I think I teach around the country, right? Like, whether it's in person or virtually, my husband and I are constantly educating. And like I said earlier, it's brokers, but it's also employers, because a rising tide lifts all boats. We need everybody to learn. At the end of the day, that education first approach only goes so far, because I still do what I do. I still make money by employers believing me that this system is corrupt and there's a better way, and they have way more power than they realize. Right. There's still a selling component, right, that inherently creates mistrust. Even though it shouldn't, it does. So my perspective was, let's create a documentary. It's not going to have Donovan or myself in it. It's not going to be about brokers. It's just about employers. And it's from the lens of hospital CEOs, whistleblowers from insurance carriers, providers, surgeons, lawyers. So that's the entire documentary. It's not from our perspective. It's not our story. It's quite literally an objective piece that just has, it's like pulling the curtain back on how does this actually work and what can employers do to take control of it. And I have found that educating with that versus trying to tell stories about my clients and my case studies has been so much more powerful. So people really take to it because it's unbiased.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's revealing behind what's happening behind the curtain that none of us understand and all of us just accept. It's like tax strategy. Everyone just assumes that they just have to pay the taxes that the CPA says, when in fact there's a whole lot that you can do to not have to pay that big tax bill.
Right. It's exactly like that.
I love it. Okay. And you guys live in Puerto Rico. So tell me about that decision and what that was like. So Canada, the US, and now Puerto Rico.
All over the place, right? Well, we've been in growth mode for a few years. I'd say it's like year by year, we're somewhere between like 20 and 35% growth. So it's been significant over the last little while. And yeah, it's been really great. And when you're in that kind of scale mode, my husband and I both, right? Like we have our first kid on the way at the end of August, which is amazing, but we've been childless and our baby is Ethos Benefits, and every single dollar that we've made, we've reinvested back into the company. And when we thought about it, Donovan had heard about a tax incentive called Act 60 that if you export services to the US, so in our case, we're exporting employee benefit consulting to US based businesses, you can qualify for a significant tax incentive and tax break. Yeah. So when we thought about it, we're like, what a great way to scale, because we don't have kids that are in school. We don't have anything holding us here. Our clients are all over the country. Our employees are all over the country. A, what a cool adventure. And B, what a great way to add to that, margin every single year without doing anything different. We don't have to charge more. We don't have to we literally just live in the Caribbean, which sounds really, really awesome. There are definitely some drawbacks, which if you want to talk about them, we can. But mostly, when you're going to travel and speak at all these conferences, it's hard flying out of Puerto Rico. But
you know, there's an ocean and you're in the Caribbean and the weather's beautiful.
Yeah. And the savings are significant. And every dollar is going right back in, and it's just allowing us to scale at an even faster pace.
Yeah. And have the impact, because if more brokers and benefits providers understood what you're saying and business owners understood, it's a completely different game.
Yeah.
Because as fractional CFOs, insurance is people in insurance is one of the biggest expense, and trying to help manage that and mitigate, oh my gosh, why did it go up 12%? Did someone lose a limb? Did someone get diagnosis? What is the mystery behind the curtain?
One thing I'll add to that, Pam, because that's such a good point. And I hear CFOs say this a lot. So they'll be like, okay, we got 12% increase, but we had a kidney disease and we had a cancer on the plan. And they kind of justify it, right? And you're like, that makes sense logically. However, there's a difference between a claim and a condition. So I'll explain that. Okay. A condition, cancer, kidney, dialysis, et cetera, right? We don't expect employees to control conditions. You can't say to your employment base, hey guys, don't get sick. You can't do that. Right? So you can't control conditions. What you can control, though, is claims. And so if you think about the definition of a claim is a request for dollars. And what's really interesting is if you and I need to get the exact same knee surgery from the exact same place, the exact same surgeon, you have one health insurance card and I have another, there could be a 10x difference in what's charged. So your plan might pay $80,000 for that knee surgery and my plan might only pay $34,000. We have the same condition, but we have a different claim dollar amount. So the focus needs to be on that variable cost, right? Not the fixed cost of whatever. It's what are we paying for that claim? That is the only way to control the cost of your healthcare long-term. Because if you're paying $100,000 for a fill of a cancer drug every single month versus we can get that drug from Canada for 10 grand a month. That's how that 44% difference in the book of business, that's where it comes from, is that variable cost.
Yeah.
So even if you have crazy conditions on your plan and you're listening to this, don't think that, you're screwed and it is what it is. The focus needs to be, what are we paying for those conditions? Not, oh, somebody's sick. It's like, well, what are we paying for that care? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And knowing that that's an option is so huge, to be able to go to your benefits provider and be like, hey, we've got someone with Crohn's or whatever, and they're going to need continual medication and support. How do we, A, still take care of them, but B, not lose our butt on the money of it?
And what's interesting is, like, if you're in one of those closed box plans, guess what? The carrier wants you to pay that $100,000 for that drug, because then next year they can pass along increases, right? So there's no incentive in that closed box design for anybody to want to lower the cost of claims. So you do have to move over to more of an open box plan. And there's, usually steps that you can take in the process. We do what I like to call multi-year strategies. So it'll take like 2 to 3 years to really move you from this closed to this open box. And that way there's no employee disruption. We're learning, we're taking it slow. And then by the time you're here, you really understand what's going on and you're in a position of power. So if you're listening to this, it's not like a lot of people think to get change in your healthcare, you have to, dramatically change everything and take things away from employees. And it's generally the opposite. We can go slow and give them way more along the way.
And it's just educating and knowing that you don't have to be trapped in the system. And the box doesn't benefit the employees or the employer. The box benefits the insurance companies, the brokers, and not the people who need the healthcare, and not the business owners who are struggling to pay that big bill every month.
And if you look at the profits of insurance companies over the last 10 years, it's unbelievable. The ACA, the Affordable Care Act, implemented what's called the medical loss ratio for insurance companies. And it was intended to be something to help control costs. But what it actually did was cause this big inflation. And so what it says is about 80% of whatever carriers are taking in as premiums need to be paid towards the cost of care. The other 20 can be revenue or profit or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? If the only way to grow the 20 is to grow the 80, right? So they are genuinely incentivized to pay more for the cost of care so that they can take more in their 20. That's
crazy.
Wild.
Like the whole system is rigged to not benefit the business owner and the employees.
Correct. And the thing is people keep saying like, oh, the system is broken. The system is broken. Yeah, sure it is. But guess what? When you understand the way that it works and it's designed, you can actually figure out a path within it that doesn't totally screw you. And that's pretty much my entire business model, right? It's like, okay, so we know this is broken. We know it sucks. Why don't we just do it a little bit different? Like, we'll stay in the lanes, right? If you want a network, we'll keep a Cigna, United network, whatever your employees need to feel comfortable. But like, you don't have to. Literally, the first case we ever wrote, the business owner said to my husband, he said, this increase will take us out of business. He had a 40% healthcare increase. And he's like, we can't do it. It was a plumbing company, less than 50 employees. And he's like, this will take us out of business. And, my husband used what we call his like fiduciary advising. So on the 401k side, you have to be a fiduciary. Right. He used the same principles, came in with a plan that was 12% under current. First time he's ever done it. And he literally just applied these principles we're talking about this whole conversation, which is like, just do the right thing. Wild, right? Like, weird. Just do the right thing and charge a fee, and don't try to push employers into one plan or another so you can take your trip. Like, just do the right thing. So that's actually a huge word in our business is, fiduciary advising and employers' fiduciary responsibility.
Yeah, and really being that advocate for your clients and your clients' employees to make sure that they get the care they need, but they're not overcharged so that someone can get that incentive bonus. Like, no.
Yeah,
I love it. So, Chelsea, what is next for you besides the little one that's coming in? But your business is exploding right now. So, what's next for Ethos Benefits?
Well, we've got another documentary on the way, and this one's going to be short. So the last one was about an hour, and it was the entire healthcare system that we were pulling the curtain back on. This time, we're going to look at just one of the four pieces, which is that pharmacy benefit manager. So there's been a ton of lawsuits recently, employee versus employer for breach of fiduciary duty, and it's all been around the pharmacy cost. So drugs that, the plan's paying $10,000 for, but if you go and you pay cash, you get it for 20 bucks. Those types of issues. So that's what that documentary is going to be about. And then we are hiring more people. I'm bringing marketing in-house, which is really exciting, and social media and all of that, and bringing on salespeople this year as well. So just expansion, right?
I love it. Scale. And then what's the dream? What does success look like?
That's such a good question. And I think personally, I would have maybe a different answer. But for Ethos Benefits, I think success looks like being that recognizable name in the industry of like, okay, so we've got employee benefit brokers and we've got Ethos. Yeah. And it's no longer, right now we're still very boutique. We're smaller. I mean, we're serving employers from small employers all the way up to 10,000 employees. So the work we do isn't small by any means, but the brand and the name is still relatively regional. And I would love to be able to just be one of those names, right? Like a Brown and Brown, a USI, but not attached to the misaligned incentives. It's like the new modern aligned brokerage. I believe that we've already done it. I literally did a presentation a few weeks ago, and it was about the role of benefit brokers and how it's evolved and what does the future look like. And as I'm designing this presentation, I'm like, man, we're already doing all the stuff that I'm talking about is going to be in the future. So that's what I want to be. I want to be the model agency of the future that everybody else follows. That's success.
I love it. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. All right. So to Chelsea, to wrap us up, I'm going to ask some rapid response questions. So don't explain, just answer. You ready?
Yeah.
Profit or growth?
Ooh, growth.
What's one business expense you'll never cut no matter what?
Talent. I mean, people.
What's the best money advice you've ever received?
Ooh, gosh. Pay yourself first.
If you had to start over today, what's the first thing you do differently with your business finances?
I would have got a hold of them sooner. It took me a few years to realize how important it is to know your numbers.
Thank you. Yes. And we talked about what success and freedom look like for the business, but what does financial freedom mean to Chelsea?
Pam, if I figure this out, I need you to help me figure this out. I used to think it was $1 million, right? And then I thought it was 5 million, and then I thought it was 10 million, and it's just this moving target. So I actually have no idea, if I'm being perfectly honest. Maybe you can help me with that.
We definitely can have a discussion. I think we'll be together in October. We can have a conversation about it. Because in my experience, it's never a number, because a number is a moving target. It's a status of being that brings you joy. That to me, so like, what is financial freedom is enough money so that I can be in this state of joy.
Yes.
Is how
That's exactly it.
I look at it. So we'll see.
That's
we'll talk about it. All right, Chelsea, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. Where can our audience connect with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn's best. So Chelsea Ryckis, Ryckis, or just follow Ethos Benefits website or LinkedIn.
Awesome. Chelsea, this has been fantastic. Founders, look, your insurance and your people, do not just accept that number that someone gives you. Have a conversation with an educated broker like Chelsea. Understand how this system works, because you don't just have to give those dollars away. And if you're trying to understand where's my money going and what should I do with it, just go to pamjordan.com. We would love to talk to you. And remember, it's not what you make that matters. It's what you keep.